Hello, and welcome to Veronica's Voice, the podcast for cycle breakers and legacy makers, where we keep it real, raw, and authentic. Welcome. I am so excited to share today's guest with you. If by any chance you listen to Phoenix Burning, then you will know that the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I went through a particularly hard time, both emotionally and physically. And I decided that I was going to go through a 6 month recovery period. Don't know why 6 months. I just was like, I need to recover. I was at a place where I was functional maybe 3 or 4 hours a day. And at the very beginning of that 6 months, I was like, I need help. And so I reached out to a healing practitioner and we worked together for 5 days in a one on one deep dive. And at the end of that 5 days, I was almost fully recovered. In fact, shortly after coming back from that experience, I signed up for martial arts class, which was a big thing for me because I had not worked out in about 5 years in a really significant way. I'd had some chronic illness as well as the acute situation that had happened at the end of the year. And I've had people ask me, how did you go from not working out, then being ill and being functional 3 to 4 hours a day to go in a martial arts class 3 to 4 times a week? And my response is, I worked with Dr. Lou Corleto. And Dr. Lou is here with us today, and he is an internationally recognized speaker, teacher, retreat facilitator, and healer. Lou has been studying the human body's consciousness and healing principles for 30 plus years. And he
Yeah.
personally has served tens of thousands of people on 7 continents and in over 50 countries. It's amazing. Lou is famous for the safe and sacred space he holds while delivering elite level training on healing principles, psychology, physiology, neurology, and conscious living that is practical, spiritually sound, science based, heart centered, and astoundingly effective, as I can personally attest. So I'm so happy to share Dr. Lou's work with y'all, and welcome, Lou.
Nika, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And I'm anxious, happy to see what unfolds in our conversation to serve your audience. So
Thank you so much, Lou. I'm so happy to have you. And you just outed me. um, Dr. Lou called me Nika. Most people here in this space don't know me by that name, but that is
whoops,
quite all
Veronica.
right. It just goes to show you the sacred space that he holds. He knows me on a personal healing level. So, Lou, one of the things I would love to dive into because it hit me so profoundly is how is your work different from some of the other things that people may experience?
Oh, right off the bat, she's going to
Right
get me
off the
there.
bat.
Right off the bat. I love it. Um, how to summarize that? I remember when you first contacted me, right? It's like, so what is this? I'm like,
Yeah, I think I asked you that when I was
yeah,
decided
right.
I
And
should work
I
with
couldn't
you.
answer it then either. I would say there's many aspects that come to that endpoint for people. One is the depth of the package, because, like you said in the introduction, is I really have spent decades, like many decades, traveling and learning from the best, like in Tibet with the monks and in the shamans in South America, and in the books, right? So all the sciencey stuff. Um, and my biggest personal passion was when I discovered the aspects of healing and life force for my own self because of having my backstory, right? Busting myself, being unconscious. So as I was going through my healing journey and I discovered this healing force, I'm like, what is this thing? And then how do I access that more, right? So that's been my personal and professional driving force. So hence the traveling and the learning was going, how can I access this force in me personally for the healing? And then as I began to do that, and then I became a professional, was how can I access that better in people, right? So in all sentient beings, there is this life force, right? This healing essence. And my job is just to get it to come out and play. People are already, so another aspect is I don't see people as broken and having problems. I see the perfection. It's like the Michelangelo quote, right? He didn't carve David into the marble. He already saw David and chipped away what didn't belong, right? And so when I see somebody, I already see the beauty and the perfection, and I assist them to remove what isn't really them. And hence the magic ensues, right? This is why in 5 days, right, so much can happen.
I love
And,
that you shared that
yeah, in a
really.
nutshell,
Yeah. Go, please, in a nutshell.
yeah, no, I'm saying like in a nutshell. So, and then like, my three core pillars, that's a biggie. So conscious languaging, conscious breathing,
Yes.
and up leveling the nerve system.
Can I interrupt you
Bringing
for
those three
one
core
second?
pillars. Sorry,
Can I
say
interrupt you?
again.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Oh, please, of
I
course.
want you to share the three pillars, but I really wanted to underscore what you just said about seeing people as not broken,
Hmm.
but they're already perfect, and it's sort of removing all the gunk. And the reason I interrupted you to highlight that is because I think in the space that I work here with people who've been in emotionally abusive relationships, so often that's what I hear from people is I want to fix this, or I know I
Hmm.
did something wrong. There's a lot of like fixing feeling around the people that may be listening here. So I just wanted to highlight that for people, that it's not about, that's one of the things that I find is different. Like I went to so many different practitioners before I found you, and or before I worked with you, and that it's not about fixing.
Yeah. And that's a huge distinction. So when I was coming up through, my education, um, that's the model, right? So one, the predominant model in healthcare, right, is the allopathic or medical model. And it's completely based on what's called mechanistic thinking. So these mechanical principles, right? Your gallbladder's bad, cut it out, right? This, that. And many practitioners, even outside of the allopathic, it's still treatment based from a condition, and we're going to fix it, right? Fixing is for mechanical objects. So the quick metaphor that I give is, if you were the greatest Swiss watchmaker in the world, right, and you took apart this $100,000 Rolex, and then you put it back together, all the pieces were there, right? Would it work? Yeah. If you were the greatest surgeon in the world and you dismembered a human body and then you put it all back together and sewed it up where you couldn't even see a suture, like immaculate, would that person get up and ambulate? No, because there's another force there called the vital force, right? So that's vitalism. And when you approach a living system, people, right? People's, animals, plants, with these different aspects in mind, intention is paramount, right? So if I see you as something to fix, then that's what we're going to look at. But nothing gets healed, right? So the book that I wrote, Healing versus Curing, right? They're two different worlds.
Huge.
Yeah, and that's a profound thing for sure.
It's a big shift. And I think I started off by asking you, how is this work different from other practitioners? And I actually don't think it really struck me until just this moment, that is one of the biggest shifts, is that both of what you just said, one, that it's not about fixing, and then two, that there's this life force that's inside of you that's part of this process that we can't just ignore. The other thing too is so people in this space dealing, with a lot of emotional stuff, trauma, in quotes, put that in quotes, because it sounds like something that needs to be fixed. And also, though, people just like myself, when I came to work with you, there's a lot of physical manifestations of that, chronic illnesses, cancer, especially though, like long-term autoimmune system issues. And I have a really hard time describing your work in terms of like, is it emotional healing? Is it trauma healing? Is it physical healing? And I'm just like, yes.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more about that and sort of some of
Yeah,
those
thank you. And
shifts.
that's thank you for sure. Great distinction. Um, there was a part I was wanting to go back to, but I'll leave that alone for a moment. So part of this mechanistic process is we grew up thinking that we are parts, right? So separation, like my emotions are just my emotions, my body's just my body, and like they have no correlation, right? And it's just not true. Like people hear the mind, body, spirit term, but they still function in a separated concept, right? Um, it wasn't too long ago that science, emotion had nothing to do with your health. Right? It's like, and so I would look at, let's see, another simple metaphor maybe was, so the molecule H2O is water, right? So if we slow down the vibration of that molecule, it turns into ice. If we speed it up again, it turns into water. And if we speed it up again, it turns into vapor. It's still the same molecule, right? But because of the vibratory rates, then we could go like spirit, emotional, and physical for water, right? Well, the bodies, right? So this vital force, the emotional body, the water, and then the physical body, the ice. So the density, but it's all the same, right? So when we have an experience that's too much to process in the moment, a trauma, a violation, something that's just, right, it's just too much for the system to handle now. We go into protective mode to survive this thing, but the system gets locked into that. And it has memory, it has breathing patterns for it, right? So everything, the cellular structure, the neurology, it all locks into that pattern. And then something manifests to get our attention that we've done that, right? Because when the threat is over, we get back to our life and attempt to move on. And all of a sudden we get signals from the body, right? A pain here, a discomfort, there's something, my organs start I don't know what's happening to me, right? It's your system bringing back awareness that, hey, it's the threat's gone, but the stuff's still in here. And we need to not fix it, integrate it, heal, right? Because even though it's traumatic, there's still a gift for healing and evolution. I don't want to get back to what I was. I want to be better than I was, right? And so learning the difference between integrating that stored trauma instead of trying to fix it or get rid of it, right? That's another mindset shift as well. Let's not get rid of it. Let's integrate it, right? So the word integration is to hold, right? I become whole, the integer like mathematics. And that's where we get our wholeness back. Yeah. Did that help?
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you. The integration piece and not trying to get rid of it or
Mm-hmm.
fix it or heal it. When you started talking, you said there was something I wanted to get back to, but I'm going to put it off to the side. So I'm going to ask if what that was, if you'd like to share that.
Let's see if it's still there and necessary. Um, it was more of like a point for the audience of, let's see if I can bring it back and connect to what we just said. So I get it, having been there myself personally. When that stuff is in here, it's like, this is uncomfortable, right? And I just want it to go away. I get that. But it doesn't work that way. If it did, you'd be better, right? You'd have resolution. That's the other part, resolution. And so I get the desire, yet if you're willing to just embrace the fact that there is a gift here, and by integrating, right, by healing what's in your system, one, it does go away, if you will, and I'll clean that up later. Because of the integration, we now have resolution, right? Versus fixing is just duct tape. Feels good for now. Nothing's really been handled, right? So if I make this line, anything below here, what I call subclinical, like you're not aware of it, right? Once it pops through, I get off my face there. Once it pops through, we become aware, right? Pain, signals, body stuff, lumps, however it shows up, mental instability. Wow, right under here, all is good. I'm okay, right? Unless it's integrated, we're not. And then just in time, it just shows up again. And either more intense in the same way or in a completely different way because you didn't listen that way. It goes, well, how about I get your attention this way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you said something a moment ago about um, wholeness and integrating. Oh, the gift in the experience. And I shared my Phoenix burning experience to support people who maybe are also going through that. But I had a client who shared with me that she was like, there's something brewing inside of me. These are my words, not hers. She's like, there's something, and she's like, I'm afraid to pull the thread and see what it is. And she goes, I'm afraid of the Phoenix burning. And I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry if I've scared you. There was a huge gift in that experience. And I think for you to frame it that way, which sounds like I don't like the word framing, but for you to point that out, that like I am so grateful for everything I experienced, because I like my brain exploded. I think on day one of our 5 day intensive, like my brain exploded in the best possible way. So if people are listening and they're like, ugh, there's that frustration of like not wanting to go through something difficult,
Mhm.
and it doesn't always feel good to be like, ugh, it's kind of an eye roll moment of like there's a gift in it, but really there is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so for anybody listening, if you are freshly involved in some unpleasant experience, I get that's really hard to hear, right? Like you might be given that, single finger salute to me as well, right? Like F you, there's no gift in this, right? I get that because when you're freshly in it, it's not fun. Seeing there's a gift there, that depends on your level of awareness or consciousness. Yet, no matter where you're at, it is. And in time, if you are going to engage in any kind of healing work, you'll come to discover that.
And that's the key, what you just said right there, though, is the engaging in the healing work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you don't and you're just looking for it to go away, then you're back to duct tape and you'll get some symptomatic relief, but it's going to surface again. It's just a law, right? I mean, I didn't write the law. It's a law. Why is it there? Why does it want to do that? It's not that you're suffering, right? So here's another part of the work, right? Is I assist people to come out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat of their life. We've grown up in the passenger seat. Quite frankly, that's the victim consciousness, right? I was. And when we learn to take, a hold of the wheel of our life, not some parts, all of it, everything changes. And that puts you in the victor role. And by doing so, you realize, oh my goodness, I have the capacity, or you wouldn't have gone through it, to and remember, the fact that you're listening to this means you've already survived whatever the trauma or insult, the challenge was. You're already on this side of it. Now it's to finish the work, right? You went through the tough
Get the
part.
gift, right? You've already
Yeah,
gone
and
through
now
it.
it's to
Now
unpack
get
the
the
gift.
gift.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
unpack the gift, right? Otherwise, you're just going to keep attempting to, squash it. So depression, right? I'm going to stuff it down, hide it through meds or denial or whatever. It's just going to keep brewing in the system. Why? Because it's there to help you grow. That might sound funky, but if you embrace that hallucination for a moment, what happens on the other side of any challenge you go through? Like you're reading a challenging book, you grow, right? So you go to the gym and work out, you grow. So there's constructive stress and destructive stress. People freak out about the word stress, like stress, and they only put the negative connotation. Without stress, none of us grow. We wouldn't survive, right? So there's constructive stress, the good stuff that helps us move. And then there's destructive stuff, the stuff that takes us out. And so, getting your system online so it can handle that. And then it upgrades, right? All the cells start to heal, the organs heal, the tissues heal, the mind heals, the heart opens. Not only are you back in the game, you're functioning in a better level.
Yeah, you're elevated. It's amazing. Um, I love your metaphor of getting in the driver's seat, and then also I see it as moving from like the driver's seat in a tricycle to like the driver's seat of a sports car. There's probably some steps in between. So Lou, you started sharing earlier. Can you share sort of the three pillars or tenets of your work that moves you like really into that driver's seat of the sports car?
Yeah, thanks. So years ago, somebody sat me down. They're like, you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, but if you could only work with three, like what would they be? I'm like, oh, ouch. Don't make me choose, right? I'm like, wow, that's okay, fair enough. And then as I sat with the question, that's what popped. I'm like, okay, if I could only work with three things, what would they be?
And we haven't even told the people all of your experience yet. Um, but I mean, you studied so many different things. So your toolbox was a tool garage, probably.
It's pretty dense. I remember a client not too long ago. He was a very wealthy man, and he literally, at the time I met him, we met in Bali actually. He had a team of 12 high-end practitioners, like multiple MDs, psychologists, psychiatrists, different kinds of chiropractors, body workers. I mean, at once. Um, and the first night we worked together, the next morning, he's like, I don't know what you do or what you're doing, but right now I don't care either. He was at the point he wanted to take his own life. Things were so out of balance. And he fired all 12. And then about a week later, we're working, and he said, you actually, one person, come with a package of more than those 12 people, right? So there is a truth in that. So back to the three.
Yes.
Conscious breathing is such a profound tool all by itself. When I first started teaching breath, people, and I would hold breath workshops, so like, why would I come to a breathing workshop? I know how to breathe, right? And the first few times I heard it, I'm like, huh? No, you don't. And then I realized people think they do because they're inhaling and exhaling physiologically, but that's existence because you're doing it unconsciously, right? It's an involuntary process. But humans have the ability to voluntarily breathe as well, right? And when you learn to do that, oh my gosh, just across the border, what happens? Energy, health, groundedness, present time consciousness, so many things occur. So conscious breathing is profound. And it requires volition, right? So it's the greatest gift to bring us present. Most people stay in the past and the future, which causes all the drama. And here, right, the old here, be here now kind of thing, Ram Dass. But it truly is the only moment that exists. And the quickest way back is to center in your breath.
And that's so key, Lou, because again, just to bring it back to folks listening, conscious breathing and how it brings you into now. And so many people listening are dealing with some level of trauma. And I love what you just said, that we're in the past or we're in the future. And I think trauma, especially when we're in a trauma response, we're not in the present at all, typically, or, at least for sure I wasn't when I experienced that. And yeah, the conscious breath is the quickest way to move out of that trauma response. Actually, I asked you once if it was the best way. I think you said it's not necessarily the only way, but it's the quickest way, I think is what you said.
It
Did
is.
I get
It
that
is.
right?
Yeah, it is for me and my perspective, because the person is doing it, right? So that's the other part about these tools are they're self, right? You're not relying on somebody else, right? So that's why I teach them is be empowered, right? That's the other part is we've been taught, from day one, we're too ignorant to understand how our body works. We need to take it to the expert, right? Whoever that expert be. And then our society chooses some white coat person, right? Doctor, fix me. I don't know. I don't know. This is your body. Like most people know more about their cell phones and their laptops than they do their own body, right? That's not a condescending statement. It's just a truth. I didn't either until I started studying. And that's a shame, right? Because this is where you live. And we don't know how it works. Like I asked, like, hey, where's your pancreas? People don't even know where their body parts are, right? It's like, but you can do stuff on a cell phone. I can't. Like, I have no idea that's even on the cell phone, right? So back to empowerment is when you quit turning over your power for getting well to someone else, back to the driver's seat. And now, not getting assistance is one thing. Turning it over is a whole nother, right? So knowing that you are ultimately responsible, because no matter who you go to or what you see, you are the one healing, right? If you break your arm and go to a physician, they put a cast on it. Did the cast heal you? No, right? So you are the healer. You're the one you're looking for. And a good friend of mine wrote, she's an internationally recognized psychologist. And she wrote a beautiful book called 90 Seconds to the Life You Love. And that title comes from neurology, which is, and the essence of the book is dealing with the 8 unpleasant feelings that she describes for the 30, 40 years she was a practitioner that people would experience, right? These unpleasant feelings. And the unpleasant feelings cause body sensations, which is why we don't like them, right? And I want to run because I'm not embodied enough to be peace here. I don't feel safe, right? So when this feels unsafe, I'm out. And so as we talked, I had her on a call a couple times. And as we talked, I'm like, we both came to the conclusion, the quickest way to stay present is breath. So the 90 seconds comes from neuroscience, which is we get this flush of chemistry and hormones where it might be redness or feeling, right? That's some sensation that isn't pleasant. And we want to run. But if we stay present, it'll just cascade out. And the way to stay present is to breathe, to consciously breathe. and stay present, and everything will be cool, right? And also when we're ruminating about, so back to that conversation, I said, okay, so why do people feel like that 90 seconds last forever, right? Or, it's a 90 second and it's 3 months of 90 seconds. Sorry, smack the microphone. And she's like, that's because they're looping over the experience.
And that's huge for people here, typically
Yeah.
in recovering from emotional abuse. Rumination is one of the biggest things I hear that people struggle with. So if you're struggling with rumination, continue,
And
please.
so that's one of the greatest gifts of breath is it brings us back, right? Boom, the mind wants to run and repeat. And you might have to do it like a lot, frequently, initially. And the cool part about this, when you learn to do that, eventually is you're learning to bring the reins of your mind back under your control. What I've found for a lot of people is they've given up the reins of their mind, right? Now their mind's running their life, which is why it's all stressed out. And they forget that, no. You work for me, mind, right? I don't work for you, but most people are working for their mind, right? So when you get the reins of your mind back, everything changes. And again, breath is one of the most powerful ways to do that.
Beautiful. So that was your first pillar, is
Yep.
conscious breathing. So then your second
Conscious,
pillar.
yeah. And then so conscious languaging is the next. This is the beginning. My teacher introduced me this 35 years ago. And when he first did, I did not like him because I had a lot of cleanup to do. And the greatest gift that conscious language brings is it transitions us from passenger seat to driver's seat. It causes us to be mindful in a profound way. And by utilizing the tool, it literally upgrades our consciousness. It brings us out of unconsciousness into consciousness. More and more and more that you use it. Most people don't realize that they're actually functioning mostly in their life in an unconscious way. So, and Bruce Lipton's classic book, The Biology of Belief, he wrote in there that even himself at that time, they thought that, hey, I'm making all of these choices and decisions from my conscious mind. But neuroscience says that's only 5%. 95%.
5%.
95% is being driven by the programs in the subconscious mind. Those programs were installed when we were young, right? And or by others, and or experiences in the past that we gave meaning to, which created lack, limitation, and some other story that wasn't loving and abundant. They're now running because they also then, over time, all that stuff becomes part of our identity. I'm no good at sales. For something happened and I made a story, no good at sales. That's now part of my identity. So now I have a business and I'm wondering why I'm failing, and because I'm not good at sales. Where'd you get that from?
Right.
I'm running, right? So the gift of this process is starts to pull this out of our awareness, right? Unconscious, subconscious. And by noticing what we're saying and realizing that we're speaking against ourselves and looping and trapping into these limitations and lacks and fears, once you start becoming aware of it, it's like, oh my goodness, no wonder I'm looping, right? So it starts to solve the question of why is this happening to me again?
Yes.
It really does, right? It solves that because now you leave that whole model by using this tool to set yourself free.
And I think one of the things you shared with me when I was learning about conscious languaging from you is I think you just said this, but I'm going to say it again because it's so huge, is that it's a way of bringing the subconscious conscious. Because again, that's a question I hear from clients a lot, like, because we talk about imprints, which is what you were just talking about, the message that your experience has, that you've taken on from an experience is your imprint. And a lot of times people aren't consciously aware of their imprints. They just think things are happening to them. And so I get asked that question, like, well, if it's subconscious, then, and I think I asked you that question actually, if it's subconscious, then
Right, how do I get there?
How do I figure it out? Like, how do I find it? How do I change it?
Yeah.
And conscious languaging has been huge because, like you said, it makes the subconscious conscious, because what we speak, and correct me if I'm wrong, I got this from you, so I'm just reiterating what I remember learning from you, which is what we speak is a reflection of our subconscious mind. So if you pay attention to what you're saying, there's your imprints right there. So people who are
100%.
struggling to identify their imprints.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes around this topic is from Carl Jung, and he said, until the subconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our life, and we'll call it fate, right? And so before I began this journey decades ago, I was in the passenger seat and running and keep running into these obstacles and repeating patterns and doing work to change them, probably fixing them, right? Yet still running into them, and just a frustration like, oh my gosh, this just must be me. This is just my life. That's the way it's going to be, right? And then when I discovered that's not true, but I'm the one that's creating all the chaos. I am, right? I wanted to blame the world, but that's passenger seat again, right? Victor seat says, no, this is happening, but I'm actually creating it. Well, why would I choose that? Because I'm running old, outdated programs, right? So how do we access that? And conscious language is one of the most profound. It's simple. It just requires effort and consistency. And then it becomes wow, right? Then it's easy to keep implementing. And that's what it does. It brings forth the awareness of the programs that you and I are running, and we get to choose. Does this serve me? Keep it. If not, upgrade it. Yeah. And then you're literally rewiring your nerve system. It's called neuroplasticity. You're not just overriding something, you're rewriting it. And then you have resolution. That thing's done.
Done. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people are paying close attention, you may notice that I catch myself and correct myself, especially talking with you, Lou, because I know that's one of your main principles. I do it at other times also. And I wanted to highlight one thing that you said, because I hear this from people so much. I guess that's just the way I am. Or connected to that, I have something. I have been told by another practitioner that this is just the way it is. I will be in triggers forever. I will, have depression forever. And so for you to have just so clearly laid out and shown how, no, that's not the case. You can actually be free from those things. So thank you for sharing that. So your first pillar was conscious breathing. Your second pillar, conscious languaging, and then you have a third pillar.
I do. And before I go there, there's one more piece I'd like to share with the audience that you just brought up, which is connected to conscious languaging around labels, right? So be really mindful, people. Again, we've grown up in a society that when you go see a practitioner, they put a label on you. You have this, whatever this is, right? Arthritis, an infection, whatever it is, it's a label of a condition, right? A heart disease or this. And now you repeat it. I have, to the point over time in conversation, my allergies, my migraines. And then you're trying to fix them while you're claiming them. Can you see how that's nuts? Like, that's bonkers, right? The old adage, right? When I'm doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. So one of the greatest gifts is be mindful. Right there. Here's a little gift of conscious languaging. Stop claiming your conditions. I have mine, right? So this is my mouse. Okay, I bought it. I'm not attached to it, but I did buy it. But when you start claiming, everything in your body goes, okay.
It's ours.
Have at it. Have at it. Yeah. So you can set yourself free in the beginning by that, right? My hands are stiff at the moment. Cool. Doesn't mean denial, but saying my arthritis, they will forever. But you don't. I've had people like this.
Yeah. So 5 days, people. 5 days it can change. Or faster. I don't know. Beautiful.
So the third. Yeah. So the third. Yeah. So the third is up-leveling the nerve system. Fancy phrase. What does it mean? So 30 some odd years as a practicing chiropractor. And right there, again, most of my colleagues practice a fixing model, right? Come in, you have a condition, we'll push on your spine until it changes. That's not what chiropractic is, never was. It's actually a spiritual process to help people make a transition. It's to recognize that there's an inborn wisdom in each person. The nerve system is our perception unit of the world, right? So we receive information. When stuff shows up that's too much to process, it gets jacked up in the system. By freeing that up, then it comes back online, and then it gets to reassess and elevate, right? So there are plenty of ways to do that, right? Conscious languaging helps elevate the nerve system. Conscious breathing helps elevate the nerve system. So its original intention, which is still there, It was just sold out to get insurance acceptance and back team acceptance way back, right? So, but its original intention, which is what I practice and many of my close friends do, is to recognize that this inborn wisdom is in every single person. We're not there to fix anybody, no matter what you present with. And like, so people are like, oh my gosh, chiropractors claim to cure this. I didn't claim to cure anything. You're the healer. My job is to help set you free so you can do your job better. So bringing the nerve system back online is one of the most profound ways to do that. It heals emotional trauma. It heals, mental imbalances. There's so many different facets of life, from spirituality down to science, that talks about the importance of the evolution of the nerve system, right? And so again, when trauma happens, we go into fight or flight, right? Oh my gosh, right? Fear, stress. That's the nerve system's reaction. Most people don't even realize they walk around daily in low levels of fight or flight all day long. And the system's not designed to do that. The original fight or flight mechanism, so fight or flight. If something happens, I'm going to fight to survive, or I'm going to flight, run away to survive, right? You're walking down the jungle at night, a tiger jumps on the trail, right? Climb a tree, flight, right? Or do your best to defend yourself. Well, the tiger eventually leaves, right? Either eats you or it leaves, but eventually that encounter ends, right? So the system just goes, okay, fine, that's over now. That's what it's meant to do. But in our modern society, because of so many factors, the cell phone that keeps you available 24 hours, the lights that we can keep on all night long, right? We've changed our circadian rhythms. So the system is just constantly going, rah, rah, rah. And it's in a fight or flight mechanism mode. And that's what's tearing up the body, right? So the other aspect of that is called the rest and digest. So the sympathetic part and the parasympathetic part. And again, back to breath. Learning how to consciously breathe can intervene into your nerve system and bring you into parasympathetic, rest and digest, chill out all the way down into your system, right? And how you breathe informs your body. Are you safe or not? Yeah. So elevating the nerve system is profound in all aspects of wellness.
And have you found that chiropractic or other types of like physical in-person touch is how people can elevate their nervous system? Or what are ways that people can do that, elevate their nervous system, aside from the first two, of course, conscious breathing, obviously, but in addition to that?
Yeah, so 100%. So the first two are huge. That's why they're part of the three pillars for me. Mindfulness, right? Because so being more conscious, being more mindful by choosing to do that, because that requires volition, right? It requires me to be present. So being present, then I bring myself here now, and I'll access different parts of my system. The more I do that, the more aware I've become, and then the things that I don't need that I've been running get to change, which shifts the nerve system. So mindfulness, yoga practice, right? Meditation. So and it's varying depending on the level of practice, but there's varying impacts into that system, right? So these tools might change, but not profound, right? Other tools might create more profound changes in the nerve system. For me, for sure, the hands-on adjusting process is one of the most profound ways of unlocking the power of the nerve system to self-heal, self-regenerate, and evolve.
Yeah, that's amazing. Your work there is so powerful and transformative. Yeah. So I'm super excited, Lou, because I know that you have one of your three pillars. So people are like, okay, how do I get to work with Lou? I think there's a few different ways that people can work with you, and we are going to share your website so people can get in touch. But right now, you just came out with one of your two pillars in a way that's accessible to lots of people. I'm super excited about that.
Me too. Thank you so much. And thank you because you were part of the original beta group that helped me design the flow of the course. Otherwise, it would have been this just chaotic driven, because I like to just rip roar right off the bat. and people entering the world would have been a bit too much. So there was so much feedback from you in the group. So thank you for that. Yes, so there is, they just launched last week, Conscious Languaging 101, the fundamentals, and then Conscious Languaging 201, the awakening process. And what I would ask the listening audience is, don't mistake the word fundamentals for basic. It's fundamentals like anything. You build a house, you need a good foundation, right? Because if you try to build on something that's not stable, it all comes crashing down. Same thing. So this teaches everything you need to start, implement, and grow, that 101. And that alone will radically change your life. 201 is for the people that just want to keep going down the rabbit hole to know, because there's so much more. And that's where we go into, like, what is the difference between actuality and reality? And reality occurs in my cranium? Come on, reality's out there. No, it's not. And this is all science backed up, right? Not just my delusions. And perceptions, and how all that happens neurologically. And I do this in a layperson's way, right? I'm not going into bonkers levels of neurology. Yeah, so I'm really excited, because I wish somebody would have given me this 30 years ago, because I took the last 30 some odd years of personally utilizing this tool, conscious languaging, and teaching thousands of people around the world, and condensing it into really refined modules, right? So each module is very short and concise. So when you engage in it, okay, cool, right? And then there's another module, short and concise. And then there's frameworks that you can download and go through. And so it's not a 17-hour, course, right? I made those in the past. So this is really refined down to the gems that you need to do the work with the supportive structure. And for the first time ever, we actually have an in-course community, so people can support each other. And I will pop in now and then as well to answer, yes, again, some of the requests from you guys. So yeah, and it's not a Facebook group, not a Facebook fan, definitely not Facebook group fan. So it's in-house, right? It's private, and only the people that are involved in conscious languaging are there. Because one of the tenets in conscious languaging is, as you're learning it, do not bring this out to your friends and family. You will just disintegrate your relationships. Don't enroll them in the work, right? Like, oh no, you should. No, do not do that. And I remind you that in the course. Yet it's a great place to have other people to work this with, right? And so the community is a great way to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited that the world gets to experience this. It's as you said already, it's a just profound life-changing tool. I've been working with this in the way that you taught me. So I was working with language, focusing on language to, like, it was like the tricycle versus sports car example. For anyone who's in my community, that I really big on setting intentions. I talk about powerful language to use in the intentions, and that changed my life. I've been doing that for years. That's like the tricycle level version of what Lou is teaching. I'm not kidding. I've been engaging in this just in the past, since February, or January, since we met in January. So however many months that is. It's been hugely life-changing for me. And I did have the opportunity to engage in your course. So I'm not just sharing this with you and having no idea what I'm sharing. And as you said, Lou, one of the things that I really appreciate about it was the little bite-sized pieces, because I just listened to a little bit and process it and download, the worksheets and things that go along with it. And so it's bite-sized and yet, like, life-changing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really amazing. And so I'm excited to share this with you. The link is down below. And I believe, Lou, you had a special offer for our community.
I do. I am so humbled to be here, because Veronica, when we first met, especially the 5-day deep dive that I do, that takes a lot of courage, because we go to some intense places fast. And the respect that I have for this woman, and the courage for the work that she did, which is why she experienced what she experienced in 5 days. She did the work. It was just every day I'm like, yes, boom, yes, boom. She might have had a different experience, but I was having a blast. And so I really got to see the essence and the power of this woman who's gifted me with this sharing with her audience. And so, out of that respect, we just finished the launch, and I had a launch special there. And I'm going to offer that same launch special to Veronica's audience. And that is there's two courses, and I've priced them. My clients pay me thousands of dollars to teach them this. And I price these so low, period. Like even after the launch special is over, they're ridiculously low for the life-changing information. But I did that for a reason, to get it in more people's hands. And the launch special was both courses half price, so 50% off. Yeah, I mean, it's bonkers. If I were you, I would do it. That's why it's one of my 3 core pillars. This one topic has so profoundly transformed my life, brought me out of poverty complex. I now get to manifest, because of this tool, so many things in my life that are just, I still get to go.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about all the amazing things in your life. People will have to come check out one of your retreats and hear more about your personal experiences.
That would be great as well. So yeah, thank you. And so the main link, just go check it out. There's I have a short video up top describing, a lot of data, text underneath that'll describe what they're about, what's possible. And then definitely the offer there, that's 50% off. Jump on that, because it's only going to be
so much,
available for a couple of days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honor. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's one, great seeing you, great being with you, and I appreciate the conversation. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lou. So if you're interested in having your mind explode like mine did, check out the link, 50% off for 48 hours from when this episode is released. And then it'll still be available at the regular full price. So check it out within this 48 hours to get that 50% off. Thank you, Lou, so much for being here. Any final words for our people?
Remember who you be. You are not your circumstances. You're not what's happened to you. If you're in the position where you don't see gifts in that yet, I get it. But no, over time you will. And when you unpack the gift, the present, it will then free you, and you can heal from whatever you're going through, physiologically, physical, mentally, emotional. You have, because it's not who you are, that's what you're experiencing. When you learn to up-level that, you can then integrate and become whole once again. So the life that is there, is still there, waiting for you to step into it. And if I can help in any way, let me know, but stay connected to Veronica. She will guide you in that process as well. She's got amazing tools to serve you. So congrats for being in her community. She's brilliant, amazingly gifted. So tap into her wisdom. And honor to be here. And if I can help in any way, send me a message or send it through Veronica, and she'll talk to me, and we'll go from there. Abundant blessings.
Thank you, Lou. You are not your circumstances. I love that. So beautiful. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Veronica's Voice. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Thank you for joining me on Veronica's Voice. If you took something away from today's episode, remember to like, share, and subscribe so others can benefit as well. See you next time.